women's intuition?
I am not saying this. I mean, effectively, if I'm trying to be bombastic, I would say there is no such thing as women's intuition.
Right.
It's subordinate intuition.
It's what women have had to do to survive the structures put around them in society to emotionally do a lot of heavy lifting and also thrive and survive.
It's the compensating guesswork of emotions, of predictive intuitiveness, of perceptiveness that anyone who's in a subordinate position, in this case women in a patriarchy, are expected to do, have to do, as you say, not just to survive, but to figure ways out, to not, ruffle the feathers of the person who has power.
The workarounds. I mean, I love this because, by the way, something I'm really doing at the moment, and if you've been a subject of this, you may have remembered this if we've ever crossed paths. Because I do cross paths with a lot of people because of the line of work I'm in. But the thing I'm doing at the moment is I'm not making conversation with people if they're not making an effort back. So if I've done a load of questions, because you can guess I'm pretty good at that, I'm facilitating. When I'm off the clock, you ain't getting it. It's my new thing. And it has happened more with men than women, as you may imagine. So I sit in silence with some men, and we see what happens.
I love that so much. There's this trick with emotional labour, which is a thing in our economy, also in our private lives, of course. So many people refuse to say it's a real thing. They just say it's nonsense, in spite of the fact that it's the essential part of millions of jobs. And one of the best ways to get people to actually see it as real is to withhold it. So if you're a woman and you're expected to constantly make people feel, at ease around you, or you're expected to be terribly good at conversation, you stop doing it, suddenly, people are very uncomfortable because you're withholding that emotional labor that they've actually come to rely on, but they refuse to treat as real or even valuable.
Yes, and it's such a good example. I mean, you've also given examples, haven't you, in work, where there's now emotional labour baked into certain roles, and those roles are often seen as feminised. For instance, waitressing as opposed to waitering, where if you weren't polite when taking somebody's food order, which is a part of that, you would be penalised. It would be commented upon. So you're right that the way to perhaps show something like this is to withdraw it. But just to go back to the difference between emotional labour, or how we're talking about emotional labour and women's intuition, how do you explain those two in relation to each other?
I mean, emotional labour is the editing work of emotions a person will do on themselves in order to have an effect on the emotions of the people around them. So it's a smile, as you say accurately, or it's questioning that you will do to make other people feel good inside, regardless of whether you're feeling good inside. It's an expectation that we have long placed on women, and we have rendered invisible, devalued, in spite of the fact that it's one of the most essential forms of work in our society, because it's the work that keeps families, communities, economies going. But what's the difference between emotional labour and women's intuition? There are so many ways in which we refuse to name emotional labour as real, but in our society we talk about basically versions of emotional labour as real. Women's intuition is one version of emotional labour.
It's a version of it.
Absolutely. It's one of the ways in which we've internalized and actually fixed in place a set of skills and duties and activities that are not just offloaded onto women, but offloaded onto, marginalized communities. So it's something that, for example, black people might feel like they have to do towards white people. It's definitely something that gets racialized, and so on and so forth.
In some of your videos where you've been posting this on social media, in fact there were, I understand, black people saying this is like racial code. This is to that point.
Absolutely. I think black scholars have done an amazing job, especially across the 20th century, to really talk about the double bind that they find themselves in, the white mask that black people often, whether in the UK, in Europe, or in America, which is where I'm based, forced into wearing in white-dominated societies. This is an existential state that actually is very familiar to any of us, any grouping. It's not, again, fixed. And I think as women, we can relate to this kind of existential state that we're forced into. And actually, in my video, as you so kindly pointed out, a lot of people commented, suddenly these big aha moments. One person commented this idea that someone looked at him, a woman looked at him, not like a hawk, but a mouse. This if you're being brought up in let's say a family where you have a father or a husband who has a very bad temper, the people around that husband very sadly are going to be taught to walk on eggshells, are going to be taught to watch that person and be very careful about what they say or do. They're going to be very good at perceptiveness and intuition. They're going to be doing that defensive emotional labour.
Yes, and I mean there will be those perhaps, because that's why I asked you to explain about the relationship between emotional labour and female intuition, this idea of women's intuition. There will be those women who believe, though, sort of separating that as women they do have some intuition. There is a knowing or something, you know, whether it's related to child rearing through to just human interaction and being better at perhaps some of that. Are you saying that is there, but it's the reason that it's there? Or are you know, the reason that it's there is because of how we've been codified and all the points you've already made? Or are you saying it's not necessarily there? It's just, I don't know.
I'm definitely saying it's there. It's something we've been trained into being very good at. It's something that, in fact, if we don't do from a young age, we're policed. You know, if we're not smiling on the street, we will be told to smile. If we are not smiling at work, we will be told we're aggressive. We will not be given those opportunities that our fellow men will.
So what should it be called if it's not called women's intuition? Should it be called forced niceness onto women? Or forced capacity?
I wrote a book called Emotional Labour, so I would argue it needs to be called emotional labour.
Yeah, but I suppose that takes... Yes, I suppose that just takes in lots of things maybe in some people's minds. But yes, you would argue that, and rightly so, I'm sure. Just with the tiny bit of time we've got left together, I think this is absolutely fascinating. We've just had, for instance, a message from a nurse saying, I'm a nurse, emotional labour is a huge thing, invisible but felt by both nurses, patients and colleagues. It would become visible if we withdrew our emotional efforts, but it is a compulsory part of the role, so this will never happen, says Elaine in Glasgow. So another example away from the serving of food through to the care of patients. So to your point, if it's withdrawn, it's noticed. What are you advising, if you are women in particular, to do when it comes to, if they recognise this, when it comes to, beyond recognising it, what to do about how to navigate that?
I mean, I think fundamentally, whether you call it emotional labour or whether you call it women's intuition, it is a superpower that clearly is available to all genders, but women are just better at it, you know, for now. I think that when aware with it, just like what you're doing, you know, we can choose whether or not we want to be doing it. We can become aware of the degree to which we do it. We can become aware of the degree to which it's expected of us in ways that are not necessarily always fair. I think it's really important when we're having these conversations to also remember that this is a valuable set of traits, it's a valuable skill set. So I'm not saying let's all go on emotional labour of women's intuition straight. It's just a question of actually rendering, you know, making it visible, making it valued, and ideally sharing it across, you know, people, groups. So that, honestly, what about men having really good intuition? That would be great. It would be wonderful, you know, to have men who are constantly thinking about how they're being perceived and, you know, what other people are feeling.
Some will say that they do. Some will be listening to this programme, I'm sure. We have lots of male listeners. Maybe because they're listening to this programme, we can say that they do. But it's a very interesting discussion, and I know it's a live one for you online as well, with those people getting in touch on your social media feeds. Rose Hatman, the book's called Emotional Labour, but a much bigger discussion as well, I'm sure, for people getting in touch this morning. How does the theory apply with mother and child relationships, which we started to cover a message here? I feel I preempt how my children will behave because I spend so much time with them, says Nicola. I mean, that again about, I suppose, who the caregivers are and isn't taking away from it, as you heard, but recognising it and seeing it for what it is. Very interesting indeed, and thank you there to Rose Hatman. Now, my next guest became international news when an Oscar-winning actor tracked her down in a bid to help. Carolyn Hunter spoke out about her sky-high energy bills a couple of years ago because she was struggling to make ends meet. Her annual bill covers powering electronic hoists, high central heating levels and oxygen machines. This is in order to keep her daughter Freya, now 14, alive. Freya has severe cerebral palsy, and the machinery needed to help with her breathing, for example, plus heating to keep her warm, was amounting to £6,500 a year, a bill Carolyn simply couldn't pay. She decided to speak out about her struggle to the BBC a couple of years ago, and Kate Winslet happened to read the piece and ended up donating £17,000 to the family, launching a GoFundMe page in the process, which went on to raise even more. First, let's remind ourselves what Kate Winslet had to say about this and about her story, about listening to what Carolyn and Freya were going through. I spoke to Kate Winslet on the programme in December 2020.